Well, we got Jason here, man. What's up, Jason? I'm Dennis. I know it looks like I'm a Quokka, but I'm Dennis. If you look next to Steven, that's who I am.
Yeah.
What up? What up?
What's
Hey,
up?
Dennis.
How are you doing today, bro?
Hey, Jason.
Man, I'm well. What's going on? What's going on, Steven? I'm well. Just getting through cold season. I think now it's hard to even tell if it's a cold, the flu, or COVID. So wild, man. But thankfully, I'm all good. How you guys doing?
That's it. One more day, man. That's it. That's all you need, right? Just one day at a time.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
That's it. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm doing good. I had a good morning today. I had a space. I run spaces every morning. I had like almost 100 people in there this morning. We were just talking about Web3 and NFTs and just the future. Not the trading stuff. I don't like to talk about trading. I like to talk about the stuff that actually matters. So I'm blessed, bro. It was a great day already.
Wonderful. And yeah, it's like
100%.
It's like this Web3 space just continues to get bigger and better. And the more news that comes out, the more we all see like, hey, this stuff is really gives us a lot of power and a lot of places to make change and do things a bit differently, which is,
Exactly.
It's why I'm so excited that we have
Yeah.
this kind of like new opportunity here. And Jason, feel free to pop in.
Yeah, man. I think, well, first and foremost, I appreciate you guys listening to my creative musings and my sincere desire to want to do something different. I've been very fortunate and blessed in my career to kind of, be one of the few people to say that they grew up to live their childhood dream. And so what I'm trying to do now is to make sure that I use my privilege and my access to provide a platform for people, to get to that same outcome, whatever that dream may be. And most of the time it's through having our stories acknowledged and heard. And so this journey of writing a book, this journey of, telling my story, kind of espousing to the world my philosophies and everything that I've experienced as being a designer, entrepreneur, and all that other good stuff is critical. But what's more critical is that I'm doing it with the community that I want to inspire and encourage instead of for the community. I think doing something for people takes a very arrogant approach, assuming that it's the best possible way. I'm a big fan of doing it with people, which is more egalitarian and it really makes the concept of inclusivity come to life. Because when we hear about these efforts to be inclusive, what we don't see is the people that the efforts are intended to reach actually being included in the work. So I'm like, rather than talking about it, just rather be about it. And so to give some people more context, I have a unique relationship with Georgetown University and New Degree Press to launch my book, but even more specifically to give context just about my background and who I am and what I've done and why, this opportunity to me is probably the most important thing beyond just being a father and a husband and, citizen of the world that I'll do in this chapter of my career. So whatever could be helpful for me to kind of explain who I am, to, enlighten the audience on why this project came to fruition and, anything else, man, I'm an open book, no pun intended. So feel free to kind of, ask any questions that could be helpful to clarify what's going on.
I love that. Straight up. Just love the approach. I love your focus on community. That's something that for me, I'm very focused on. And I think Web3 in general, and if you come into my spaces in the mornings, you can hear me postulate about it a little bit more. But I believe that aside from the obvious enterprise technology that's going to come out of this, I think that the most impactful thing is going to be how the technology affects the ability to grow communities. And that's something that I really am excited for, not just for, communities like the Happy Quokkas, but, communities like existing nonprofits, charities, organizations, churches, stuff like that, like anything that people come together. I think that there's unique inherent benefits to this technology. So it's a blessing to be here right now. And I love where you're coming to it from being such a mindful person, being aware of where you came from and really wanting to participate in helping make something better using your experiences. That's something I could personally relate to. Would you say that it's kind of a cathartic for you to be able to do this?
Yeah, I would say in a lot of ways it's cathartic because I think for me in my lived experience, what I was told growing up is that you use your pain as fuel to achieve. But at a certain point in time, there's diminishing returns on using, the trauma in your life as inspiration to create. And I've reached a point where I want to create from a place of joy, not from a place of remembering, how hard it was for me growing up on the south side of Chicago. I get kind of sick of talking about it, as a mechanism for my growth. And so what I've done and what I'm doing with this book writing process is reframing what these traumatic experiences, what these tough upbringings, what these circumstances really are intended to do, which is teach us, the art of introspection and self-leadership. I think when you look at professionals, specifically folks who are playing in corporate environments or building anything, professionalism is often regarded as like your education, your pedigree, your title. But professionalism, in my definition, is discipline. And if you can't lead yourself, you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be, empathic towards yourself, how can you ever be expected to build something that's inclusive and caring for other people? And so it's a disproportionate amount of literature out there that
Exactly.
speaks to what
And
it means to be a manager and stuff. Go ahead. Go ahead, bro. I got you.
okay, thank you. And man, it's just like the discipline of continuing, even with us working on a community, having our ups and downs and having the discipline to keep going and keep pushing out different types of content where we want to inspire people and we want to help people achieve their own mission or life or enjoyment. And for you to have a life purpose along those lines, it's inspiring, Jason. And I know we've had a couple of calls where you've really brought some important life advice to me as well. In terms of one of them is the chunks, taking it quarter by quarter. One of them, that's something I've implemented in my own life since we've last spoken. And so, anyways, I just wanted to speak on that a little bit because you're inspiring to me, and it's awesome to invite you to our community and build a space here where we're not like, hey, this is Web3, more so along the lines of we're a community and we're using Web3 a different way to provide value to that.
I think Steve's breaking up there a little bit, but yeah, no, I think just what he was touching on is that we have a unique opportunity right now, and the fit that we found here, the synergy that exists, I think is something that we'll be able to work with for a while to come. I'm excited to see the things that naturally come out of this because, as you were saying, Jason, similarly, I come from a troubled background. A really, if you talk about it, it's a traumatic childhood to the point where I have some neurodivergent traits that I've adopted along the way that I've actually used to empower myself. And it's easy to sit there and say, "Oh man, I had such a bad life, and you don't want to have a bad life like me," and that kind of gets like weird. It's a weird conversation though, because my thing is like you're still sowing negativity into that conversation, and kind of like you said, if you can remove the negativity altogether and focus on where you want to go, and instead of using that negativity to fuel you in the traditional sense, you're using it in a way that you really aren't trying to feed any negativity into it. You want to just completely focus on what is possible and what we can accomplish, and that's when you stop focusing on talking about that negative stuff and trying to get people to relate on negative experiences and you start talking about the things that we can do together. I think that that's a magical thing, and that inspires people the most because, of course, and this is a thesis that I talk about often, coming from customer service and food and beverage industry. But as humans, we aim to be negative because it's easy for us to relate to negativity. We've all had negative experiences. And to have a positive experience with something, we tend not to go out of our way to talk about that positive experience because a lot of times we conflate that to our personality. And we feel like if we go share that with somebody and they don't get it, that, they're not thinking, they're not recognizing us, and we conflate those two things together. So I think that there is magic though, and that there's a lot of people that do want to focus on positive stuff, and maybe they have that idea in their head too, but they've just been too afraid to talk about it. They've been too afraid to express it, and to be the leader that can talk about that thing that other people are probably thinking about anyway. I think is really freeing because you give them the ability to come together, validate their concepts, validate their ideas, and validate just the fact that they're humans. And I think it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the key point, man, is we don't have to keep operating from a place of pain, and I tell a lot of people, the work that I do in the academic space, there's two types of fighting. You're fighting for something or you're fighting against something. And when you fight against it, puts you in this position of having the world and the weight of the world on your shoulders, which is an impossible feat. And so when you're fighting for something, it's like the wind's behind your back and it's propelling you forward to do things that you think are impossible or you're incapable of. I'm also neurodivergent. I'm exceptionally proud of it. I feel that it's a form of genius that the world is trying to eradicate. And so what I'm trying to do is make sure that we protect that type of genius, we protect that type of creativity, and we amplify it, which is why, me disrupting a 2,000 plus year old business model of publishing is important. So just for context, I've
Oh
had
yeah.
several big publishers, reach out to try to get me to do a book with them. And what made me insanely upset was that they wanted to basically tell me, hey, we love your story, put it into the world, it's magnificent, but you can't really own a majority of your own lived experience. So my response to them is like, yo, so if I can live my entire life as me, and then I write a book about it, but I only can own 10 to 15% of my life story, how does that make any sense? Their best response, well, that's just the business. That's how it is. I'm like, nah, I've never settled for what someone tells me, how it is. I think Web3, this community, for the first time is empowering the creative to lead. And when you look at business models, it's never the creative that's in charge of the P&L or the structure. And now we have a chance to not only build the infrastructure, but make it inclusive in a way where we can, honestly create more people to have the same opportunities I have. So what I'm standing up, and this is the first time this has happened, by the way, so we don't have a blueprint for this. Everything is happening in real time. We're going to learn. We're going to make a bunch of mistakes, but it's going to be awesome.
That's it
Uh,
though. That's the way to do it now.
100%, 100%. And if you're afraid to fail, man, and you're afraid to live, failure is the greatest teacher. It's the greatest teacher I've ever had in my life because it breaks down ego. And ego is what prevents a lot of us from being our fullest self. And I wake up every day trying to kill my ego by challenging my own expectations of myself. And so this process and working with you guys as a family, because I do believe this needs to be treated as a family project. The end goal for me is to establish the book will be published like Nipsey Hussle type model. I have to deal with Trillicon and New Degree Press, with Georgetown and New Degree, but it's under Trillicon, which is my consultancy. God willing, we'll be able to set this up as a DAO so that I can start to use Trillicon as a way to give all the people who participate in this process a chance to be authors, a chance to be able to create your own literary works, have the backing, of a Georgetown, of a publishing company, the editors, all the resources they're giving to me, they've committed to giving to this community. And they're excited about it. And the upside is that you keep 100% of your ideas. They don't take any IP ownership. So, I've done the hard work of, breaking down the door. Now I'm like, how do we make sure that we use this to amplify the voices that are missing in the literary arts? Because history is dictated by the people who can control what's printed. And I'm kind of sick of that because when I read books, I'm like, man, I don't see myself in a lot of these stories. I don't see my opinions and my insight. And I would love to understand the process. And so they're also going to jump on when we start to roll things out. The editors are going to be on. They're going to, all the videos that we record of my process be shared so everyone will be able to have the full, transparent, authentic, messy view of how books are created. They'll be able to join chats live. The book marketing team, the publishing, the editing team, everyone is committed to jumping on and really sharing how this is done because they're also equally as bullish on changing this model with this community. And so it's really a revolution in a space that has not been disrupted, honestly, in over 2,000 years when you look at the modern printing press and how books are created and distributed. Um, so yeah, man, I'm hyped. The next few weeks for me, January 17th is my first big deadline where I'll hand off 20,000 words. So I'm pretty excited about that. A lot of it is incoherent. It's just gibberish and me just putting stuff on paper. And from January 17th until March, we'll be editing things down to our chapter structure, which would then be used for, the SoundCloud files where, the community will be able to annotate and give feedback on which parts of the stories they love. And then we can go into Discord and have discussions and go deeper. So I can explain some of the philosophy behind each of these narratives and why I'm writing a book that's more of a collection of essays than it is, a book about leadership. The reference for this, if you're wondering like why I chose essays over a traditional life story type book, is I'm a big fan of Stoicism. And one of the best books I've ever read for self-leadership was Marcus Aurelius' The Emperor's Handbook, or Reflections and Meditations, as some people call it. And it was profoundly life-changing to see a person in that position of power questioning his own abilities and questioning how he can go about being a better leader. So that's kind of the inspiration, that, and also this book Paulo Coelho wrote called Manuscripts Found in Accra, where a gentleman was sharing his wisdom with the city of Accra, Ghana, before it was being invaded by the Roman Empire. And so what I'm trying to do is not write a traditional linear book, but to write, a book where each chapter holds its own unique value. So if you only can read one, you still get something from it. Instead of waiting to the end to get the message is embedded in every page that you turn. Because I know that people are time constrained. I know that some people like me have a hard time focusing when reading books. So I've designed it in a way where even if you just read a paragraph, there's something meaningful for you in there. And that's why this is important for this community to be involved, because all the feedback, all the conversations we have is going to help this be something that when we launch it on the blockchain and we put it out into the world, it'll be included. And then we'll also be able to identify how to serve the community and get your book ideas and get your voice out there as well. So like I mentioned, I want to use my privilege to make a way for all of us, man. Even in the book, the way it's structured, that's all I keep talking about is how do I use what's been given to me to empower billions of people? Because what I hear often is, man, Jason, you're so unique. You're a unicorn. And that's when they other you. I'm like, man, there's plenty of people like me. They just don't have the same chances. So I'm trying to disprove this whole notion of, individualism and exceptionalism being confined to just one person who's out in front. There's an army of people behind me who've helped me get here. And I just want to, turn the spotlight onto you guys. So that's my honest heart's intent, man. And that's why I'm like, let's get this thing cracking.
Bro, I love it. It's I think you and me have a lot in common in terms of the way that we've taken some of the same inputs and just done some things completely different, maybe based on our neurodivergencies, made us see things in a completely different manner or something. But I hear you talk, and I kind of got that same fire. I see a lot of systemic things that I've only been in place to benefit the people that put them in place. And I see this Web 3.0, or Web 3.0, what is this, 1999? I see this Web 3 as an opportunity to really implement these technologies for ourselves in a way that benefited us as humankind. I think that in the early 2000s we had a huge opportunity to create some really amazing technology, but corporations bought up all of the software developers and made them build technology for them. And it's kind of sad. So I'm with you on the whole, like, yo, let's do this, because I'm also on that level of like, there's so many people around us. I started a marketing agency back in 2015, and my concept was, I want to make it easier for creative people to be creative without making them have to feel like they have to run a business. I felt like there's a lot more creative people that were out there that could have done things, but that weren't doing it because they just conflated what needed to be done to be a professional or successful creative individual. I'm not saying that I wanted people to sell out their art or anything like that, but I definitely, would want people to be able to use their art in a way that's sustainable to themselves and the way that they create, to also supplement themselves and substantiate themselves in other ways. And so that was kind of my mission when I stepped out, and I just realized, it is a little bit hard. There's a lot of systems in place that keep us from being truly as creative as we can be. And for me, myself, I started my own NFT project to get my skin even deeper in the game, because I've been in this blockchain thing since 2016, watching it, waiting for the right time. And this year I jumped in when I saw the NFTs because it unlocked something for me. And back 2 months ago, I decided to start doing my own project. And it was like the amount of validation I got from myself for just creating things that I wanted to create for the sake of creating them, and then using those things that I create to help tell a story that I feel is important to tell. I think that's one of the most amazing things. And the even more amazing thing is that anybody can do that right now. Like literally anybody, if you have something that you care about enough, and there's a way that you can get involved in this. If you're interested in the space, if you're interested in the future of how we communicate and how we use the internet, and you also want to make a change, I promise you there's a way to do that. And so it's inspiring to hear you talk about that. And I'm really looking forward to see what all we can do, in the future. You did touch a little bit on the book process itself. Can you touch on like a little bit about the book itself and about like what it is, that you've already touched on, like the chapter structure and how you're trying to make it a little bit different, but in terms of I guess what you plan on putting into it, the core audience, who you're making it for and stuff like that. Could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's a book that's structured almost with two modalities. The title of the book, the working title, is The Reject and the Rebel. And the reason why I named it that is because, the the double-mindedness that comes with being rejected often leads people to rebel against structures, and sometimes that rebellion is not necessarily a good thing, especially when it's ourselves that is being torn apart. And so the book is chronicling several key moments in my life that have propelled me into this unique position that I'm in my career. But none of it has to do with just skill set. It was all, it was all through mindset. And so the audience is intended for creatives, and I use creative in the broadest word. Like a few years ago, I stopped calling myself a designer. And a lot of the structures internally when I'm doing deals or people are reaching out, because I realized that designer was becoming an elitist word, and it made a lot of people feel isolated. Like, oh, if I can't draw, then I'm not a designer. I'm like, that's cat. Like, that's a form of design. If you are creative, that's more approachable and more accessible. And that
It's a
goes all the way
mindset
back.
thing, right?
It's a mindset, exactly. And that goes back to when I was an undergrad at CCS in Detroit, when someone had told me poor people are creative, and wealthy people are designers. A poor, and I was like, what do you mean? They were like, well, I mean, if you don't have this right accent or go to this school or work at this prestigious firm, then how could you ever call yourself a designer? And I was like, that's really ridiculous that creativity is regarded as a poor man's activity, which is weird. And you see it in the rise in tuition in art and design schools, that they are trying to make it insanely expensive for people to get access, because design school is different than traditional college, because it is a function of you working with tools and working with your peers, and you can teach yourself, but it's a little bit different when you're in this structure. So for the people who do choose to go that path, there's an upside and a benefit. So to create this barrier to entry with cost has eradicated a huge population of people that normally would get into these schools based on merit. Now they can't get there because they can't afford it, which is ridiculous. And so I'm taking the lead on saying, no, we need to focus more on creativity, which is accessible to children and the elderly. There's no age, there's no look, there's no face of creativity. There's a face of design that the industry wants to push, but there's no face of creativity. And so if we can remove this concept and we can make it more inclusive through these narratives, then the audience could be a person who is 12 years old. It could be a person who's 92. So I'm trying to create something that's timeless and lives beyond traditional demographics. If I had to pick an age group, it would be 18 to 25, which was the most critical period in my life, because I became Nike's first Black design intern at 19, and I became the fastest person to reach senior designer in the industry at 25. And between that time period, I had the responsibility of, effectively designing what's the equivalent of about $1 billion worth of business for this company. And no one was mentoring me. No one was really giving me the game on how to handle, success. People talk to you about how hard it is to reach your dream, but no one talks to you about the cost of reaching your dream. Like, it costs you something to get to your goals. And sometimes what you're paying with is your health, your mental health, your well-being, your relationships. And while we talk about this trade-off and you got to grind and this, that, and the third, as you get to my age, I'm 41, I realized that a lot of what I was told was not actually good advice. The examples I had was not good advice. The people who were telling me this are in their 60s and they're falling apart physically. So I'm trying to prevent you guys from burning yourselves out in pursuit of some metric that doesn't matter. Because when you look at life, it's temporal. And what matters are the moments we create with each other and the opportunities we create. That's what ripples through eternity, is how you make a person feel. Fuck the finances. Money is money, and you can make it and you can be wealthy. But I know a lot of wealthy people who die wishing they spent their time more effectively. And I've had these conversations. So that's what this
Yes.
book is intended to do, man. It's to center in on the preciousness of now, and how each of us and all of our time is equally as valuable, and how we should be pushed forward to be creative in any way that we think creativity should exist.
Yeah, I vibe on that so hard. I realized that time was the most important thing early on, but I didn't. I didn't really like heed that too well, because I was still grinding and I came from poverty, and so I was like, man, I gotta do whatever I can to get the fuck out of here, And then my mom died right before my daughter was born, and that was whenever I was just like, full stop. I was done. I was bartending. I was working for other people that were tricking me into making money for them, but didn't give a fuck about me at the end of the day. And that's what pushed me to just say, you know what, like, I'm gonna do it for myself. If I'm gonna have to put in this time and energy to no matter what, working, if I got to put in 40 or 60 hours a week, no matter what, to work, right? But doing it in scenario A, I still have a 60% chance of failing, or scenario B, where I have 100% chance of controlling the input and I have 100% accountability for the failure if that occurs. But I also have 100% ability to reap 100% of the rewards if that does happen. So for me, it was a no-brainer to start doing this for myself. And that goes to, I think speak to what you were talking about in terms of like opportunity cost, in the sense that there's a lot of people that would rather be comfortable instead of going out of their way to make the risks that they are able to. And they're not really risks as much as they are opportunities, but they looked at it as risks because people don't want to change. People want to stick with what they're comfortable with. And so this gives people the opportunity, or at least what you're saying is like, you want to give people the opportunity to recognize those opportunities and do the best that they can with the time that they have. And I think that, again, that's something that I deeply resonate with. Especially, like I said, after losing my mom, that's when I realized like, yo, I could be working. I lost my dad when I was 4, and I lost my mom when I was 24, 2 months before my daughter was born. And we named my daughter after my mom because that's like the last thing that she wanted. And so it was like, duh, like that's absolutely it. So that was when I realized like the first year after my daughter was born, I was bartending 6 days a week, working in a town 45 minutes away, that I would do doubles 6 days a week just to make the same amount of money as I was making at a restaurant that I had been working before that closed. I live up here in Panama City Beach where we used to do spring break stuff. So after spring break left, we lost the ability to have that market. And so that was where traveling all the way to Destin was the thing that I had to do. And I missed my daughter's entire first summer of being alive because I had to fucking work all day, every single day, for some people that were still only paying me just enough to fucking get by. And that's when I, was finally done with it. I was like, cause like, what if I die? Like, what if tomorrow I die and my daughter doesn't fucking remember me because I was working so fucking much? Like, that doesn't matter how much I'm making right now. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could be putting this energy into something else and building a legacy for myself and for my family, which is something that I want to do, coming from where I'm from and coming from the roots that I came from, where I had a legacy, but the legacy was dust by the time it got to me. So now I'm here to like rebuild a legacy and do it for myself and do it the right way.
Amen. That's the most important piece, man. And I've had, to your point, so much loss in my life, but what it has given me is a sense of, urgency to really just appreciate people when I have them. Like this
Right.
book was inspired, like literally the basis of this
Urgency
book.
to be mindful and wait and be
Exactly.
patient. It's so
Exactly.
paradoxical.
It is, man. Delayed gratification is the greatest gift I've ever given myself. Growing up in an industry where you see your friends at 19 become millionaires, after they get drafted to the league, like you think that's the path for you. Like, man, I need to be on this same path with my gifts and talents, not realizing that we each are running our own race and we each have something for us that is going to be given to us at the right time. Getting my dream job at 19, like literally messed me up because I'm like, well, what do I do with the rest of my life? I was expecting to be 40 when I got this job, not 19. So it was out. It wasn't out of the blue. I worked for it, but to get it so quickly, it did give me this sense of like, well, what's next? Who can I be? And so you jump trying to find this thing to replace what you think gave you worth, and you realize that your self worth comes from your family, from your loved ones, from you, not from any job title or opportunity. And when I was building my last startup, I had, in the Silicon Valley, I live in the Silicon Valley and work here. I was building a company focused on kids, which is, that's my heart, is working for kids. Because at 7 years old, I almost died. I had a severe blood infection. And so that's when I was reading comic books, read about Dr. Lucius Fox, the black dude that made all the gadgets for Batman. And my whole life, I've been trying to become him. And
Oh
so
shit.
I
That's a
finally,
big vibe, bro.
yeah, that's my guy, man. So I created a company called Superheroic based on some research around how children's brains work when you identify them as a hero. And when I was at the tail end of this company before COVID hit, I found myself in ER having a severe anxiety and panic attack. And I thought I was having a heart attack. So I'm sitting here writing what I thought was the last words I would write to my kids, like, yo, don't do this. Think about this. So I wrote this plan for myself based on time. Because the thing that I had researched to understand was, why do I feel urgent? And then I realized there are two versions of time. One is chronos, one is kairos. Chronos, or chronological time, is linear, it's output, it's based on the agrarian calendar. It's what they use in the corporate structure to force you to have to work as much as you do. And this 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, that was made up by Carnegie, man. That wasn't something
Damn. Yeah,
that wasn't,
exactly.
yeah, bro. So it's
That's not
not,
human nature.
It's not human, dog. And then Kairos time is about the opportune time to take action. It's God's time. It's about being present. And so I was writing to my kids how to break free from time by understanding how you want to feel at the end of every week versus how much you want to get done for every week. And
Hell
so
yeah.
me thinking I was writing what would be, my last letter to my kids, thankfully the doctor was like, "You're just having an anxiety attack. What's stressing you out?" And I realized, like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I damaging my body and my mind, more importantly, my mental health, to live up
Mm,
to a standard that I don't have to live up to? I don't have to be anything other than myself, not what people assume or expect of me, but what I need from me and what my children and my family, my community needs from me. So that's
mhm.
what sparked this, man, was realizing that I got caught in the rat race of the matrix, thinking
Yeah.
that productivity was about linear output instead of input of meaningful things that help me feel centered.
Hmm.
And that's what I want to prevent for this generation. This whole hustle porn crap on Twitter with hustle and grind, that's BS. I don't believe it. The wealthiest
Exactly.
people I know work the least.
That's the truth. I think that there's a balancing act. I believe heavily in the 80-20 concept. I believe in systems that we can't comprehend that we still participate in. And I think that that's kind of one of those things. I think that I hate what the hustle culture does. I think there is a little bit of a benefit for different types of it when it's applied the right way. But when it's applied the way that it is 80, 90, 95% of the time, it only leads to bad mental health. It leads to bad wellness. It doesn't do anything that actually matters. And going back to touch real quick on what you were saying, I think that's an important concept in getting people to realize that success is more, and validation in yourself, existential validation, is more about the qualitative side of things than it is the quantitative side of things. I've seen. I guess maybe it was just being close to so many people that have passed away. Um, that and seeing how it's again, like, it's like you're on your deathbed. You don't care about the job you had. You don't care about the money you were making or the car that you drove. It's about those moments. And even if it's just, it's about being mindful. And I think that that's something that if we can get more people to do that, and especially at a younger age, to be aware of the power of being mindful, and what happens whenever you become self-aware of your fears and of your desires, and truly become capable of getting what's out there, embracing the opportunities. I um i really vibed on what you were saying about the looking for kind of like a voice too. You were kind of inferring when like growing up without the parents and stuff, I had a spiritual journey where I was like really lost. I had so many voices telling me to do so many different things. I had so many bosses and teachers. Everybody was saying something different about what it took to be successful. And I think that was like the quantitative thing. There was so many people that were telling me a specific thing or series of things that I needed to do to be successful the way that they found success. And it became cacophonous, right? It became like just like so many words in my head, so many people telling me different things. And then growing up without a dad, growing up with a mom that was really sick, and essentially moving out when I was a teenager, like I had no authority and I didn't know who to trust. And I had a very, very spiritual awakening with myself where I realized that I could trust myself. And if I start there, I start with just doing what's best for me and critically examining what that means, not just saying, "Oh, I'm going to sleep well tonight," but literally sitting there and thinking, like, what's best for me in terms of how do I spend my time? How do I spend my energy? Because that's the validation point. And I think that we need to be internally validated. And if we're not self aware, we can't have that internal validation ever. It will never come because we don't actually know what we're trying to validate against. We're looking for other people to do the validation for us, and that leads to a feeling of emptiness. So I think that this is big stuff, and I appreciate that you're really doing this for that age bracket that you're doing, because I remember that was the time that was most formidable in my point in my own life. Like aside from being a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old, I think 16 to like 24 was a time where I had the most opportunity to leverage my energy against time. And so I feel like if we can give people the ability to recognize that and give them the tool sets in terms of like the mental tool sets and the thought processes and the mechanics that will allow them to do that, I think that that's going to be where we can build a future that truly is better than before.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why this project is going to be so fun, man. So to be able to, talk about a book being minted versus published, this
Oh,
structure of how we're
oof.
writing it, inclusive of the people I'm trying to reach, and then each person having the ability to see themselves contributing, and then having the Dow to then fund more voices. Like, that's the stuff that I really care about, man. Because the
That's the
barrier to
gangster
entry,
stuff. Yes.
that's power dynamics, man. That's playing 4D chess. Like, we're not we're
Truth,
thinking
bro. That's it. Like, that's next level. And to be doing it right now, 5 years before people even understand what this is really all about, I think
Yep.
is the coolest thing too, because we're really looking back at this, and it's people like you that are from Silicon Valley that have seen what can be done. Like Steve, he's from Silicon Valley. His parents are from there. He's one of those guys that saw what could be done because of what's currently happening and realizes that, holy shit, this is a unique point in history where we can take that same momentum and energy, and we actually have an opportunity here to spin it off into something wholesome.
Exactly. And that's my whole philosophy, is being fasted in the future, which requires you to not be afraid of embarrassing yourself or failing.
And it also requires you to be stupid aware of what's going on, about the things that you care about.
Yep. And unapologetically being you. And so it's
Power.
I'm super hyped, man, because when we get this off the ground in the next few weeks of what's happening, the next few months, I probably should kind of explain. So, like I mentioned, I hand off. Well, my first book is coming out in February. It's a kids book because I wanted to honor kids first and stay true to my ethos. So it's going to be pretty fun. It'll be announced shortly, but I'm really hyped about where that's going. But this one, 20,000 words, handed off January 17th, and then from there we do the chapter structure, and then March we're going to start and we just have to figure out the cadence as a crew, whether it's monthly or bi-weekly, the Discord chats where we're going in deep and on each SoundCloud file. And because of what I want to do is protect the voice, right? So 100 years from now, if someone goes back and they're like, why did the person write that? What was he thinking? They can hear our conversations. And I want these embedded on the blockchain for that reason, because I would love to be able to go back and talk with James Baldwin in person about why he wrote the way he wrote. Talk with, Marcus Aurelius. Why did you write the way you wrote? What were you going through in that moment? I can't. History doesn't allow me to do that. But this technology does, man. And God willing, at some point, we can mess around and have a hologram embedded on the blockchain so people can feel like they can have a conversation with me through AI in the future to say, what were you thinking, Jason? Why was this important? How did it change? Because what I'm hoping is that this book, even though the people in the literary arts and in the world don't get the technology yet, in 5 years, when it's normal to say I've minted my book versus published my book, they'll look at us as the pioneers who went out and did the heavy lifting to prototype this thing and to get it out into the world. And a lot of the authors will be able to now disrupt these publishing companies that honestly have a monopoly on narrative. And it doesn't make sense to me. And you can't own your voice, and doesn't make sense to me. So the new economic model, the ownership model, the inclusivity model, all that, man, that's what I hope to bring to this community. And I feel so grateful because my relationship started with Quokkas through Miles, who I met through church, just, a young homie. Yeah, that I met, and we've been friends for a minute. And I tell everybody, when I mentor people, my goal is to have them be my peer, not my mentee. I hate when people say, "Oh, you're my mentee." That means that I've never given you enough game to surpass me. That's not my goal. I want y'all to go faster and further than me. Like, I want people to surpass me. That's the point of it.
Well, because you're in it too you actually have the virtue in this, in the sense that you want to see the space rise up, and you realize that you're limited in terms of what you can do, and it's actually a function of who you can connect with and inspire to do something that's gonna actually take it to the level that it needs to be taken to.
Exactly. And it just requires humility, man. And people in my position have been put out in the public sphere to assume that we've done everything by ourselves and we're the lone geniuses. And I think that's all cap. It sets the unrealistic expectation that brilliance is singular. I hate that. Like, I'm a reflection of all the people who've taken the time to pour into me, or at least listen to my crazy ideas. Even if they didn't get it, the fact that my wife sits and humors me like, babe, I love it, babe. I'm like, I don't even know if she know what I'm talking about, but she's supportive.
Bro, dead ass. My girl's the same way. She'll be laughing and stuff. I'm like, babe, I love you.
Like, yo, thank you. And so if I could be that for somebody else, bro, like somebody coming on and giving me feedback and assuming because of my title, like, wow, this guy's time is more valuable than mine. I wanna get rid of that concept that somehow my 24 hours is more important than your 24 hours. It's not.
Dang. Oh man, that's so gangster. That's so humble. That's what we need. Well, let me tell you this real quick, and maybe because I'm actually interested, I want to circle back to what you had said a little bit ago about like the behind the scenes process and shit. That actually got me thinking. part of what we're trying to do with the Quokkas, is actually take this to a level where it becomes a self-sustaining community and movement. And that takes a bit of engineering at the end of the day. We're not When this started, it was, I think, the other co-founder, he kind of had a desire to make this more of a token to flip, right? And it's unfortunate, but what was really cool is he ended up building like a cool community around it of people that actually gave a shit. And so I've kind of stepped up into his place, and I'm looking at this because I'm actually a community builder. I love bringing people together. I was a bartender for a decade, like my boy Alex, who's in here, not in here anymore, but we bartended together. I love putting people on. I love the conversations that happen. I love the interactivity and the culture that stems from that. Never mind the drunk people, but the actual energy that comes in. And like I said, it's exciting to talk to people that want to just have conversations about whatever. And I think that that's a beautiful thing in life, and that being mindful and being in the moment is really cool. And that's one of the things that I tried to see as a benefit of bartending is connecting with people and being able to jump in and get these really cool perspectives from different individuals and give them the opportunity to feel validated and talk about the things that they felt were really cool. And so that's kind of like a big thing for me is I love building communities and giving people the ability to just connect with each other based on the things that naturally bring them together. Here in this sense, we've got the Happy Quokkas community, where there's the virtue side of it, which is the mental health advocacy and the wellness and personal development side of things that we're trying to focus on. But then we also have the other side, which is where here comes my ADD, like swinging right in. We got the mental health side. Oh, we also have the Web3 side. It's obvious that everybody that's in our community right now has a desire to participate in what we're building in terms of the technology and the space, even if they don't necessarily know how to do it. They want to be a part of it. And so I think that that's really cool because we're building this community of people where the main focus is, hey, let's be good people, and let's help each other out. Let's provide support for the people in the community that need support, and let's ask for support when we need it. Let's not feel afraid to ask questions. We want to make it a place where people can grow. And so part of that also is that, like, we need to be pouring into the community. And that's why doing things like partnering with you to provide unique opportunities to the community, even if you're not a Quokka holder. I mean, like, this is the movement. The Quokka itself is like, if you want to participate in that, you can, and there's cool things that come along with it, and we're going to be doing cool stuff with it. But at the end of the day, we're doing this for the community because we want to leverage the technology here. But we're at a disadvantage because we're just a couple people. We're just a handful of individuals on the internet. So what I decided to do, and what Steve and I are working on, is building up what we call like the Quokka Academy, where we're going to be essentially teaching the members of the community that want to learn the necessary things that need to be done in order to manage the community at scale and in perpetuity as we move forward. So for me, those things are content, those things are community management, content management, community management, and coding. And so, for instance, we're starting a little code community because we're trying to build stuff. We're trying to actually make really cool things. We're not trying to lead technology first. We're trying to lead community first, but we want to add technology in a way that makes sense to the community. And rather than reach out and try to make money from sales, to go find a developer to try to build this for us, I've flipped the script. And what we're doing is we're reaching into the community, and we're going to be coding together. We're going to be doing things together and learning together so that we can create a sandbox environment where the people that want to learn can put the time and energy into it and better themselves, and in doing so also help build the technology that's going to allow us to really take our community to the next level. If you look right below you, there's my boy Grav down there and Kaylin. The two of them are going to be they're going to be in the community. Miles is actually coming in to help out with the academy as well on the coding side. Grav is a manual laborer. Homeboy does tiling for a living, and he got inspired earlier this year. We met in my spaces in the morning, and he got inspired earlier last year, actually, with the GameStop thing. And he saw all of that go down, and he brushed it off. But then after it came back around and he saw everything happen and everybody make money, he said, I got to get into this because there's obviously something here. But the more that he got into it, the more that he realized that there was a fundamental thing that he wanted to get interested in. He wasn't into it necessarily for the money per se, as much as he was in it for the systemic change that he was aware of, that he could see happening. And so that's where we've been talking in my spaces, and I finally got him his interest peaked to the point where he wants to learn how to do this stuff. And he was the inspiration. I said, you know what? Let's do it inside the community. Let's start in the community, and let's teach the people that no matter what, even if you have zero coding skills, let's start coding some basic stuff, because the barrier to entry right now is so low. And if that's really what you want to do, you could spend 2 hours a week learning this stuff and become proficient within a very short amount of time compared to the rest of the people that are in the space doing stuff. And in the same sense, we're trying to do it with the content, and we're trying to do it with the community management initiatives. So if you're down for it, I would love to maybe in a couple months after we get through this, talk to you a little bit about maybe doing something along the lines of like publishing, and maybe doing like a behind the scenes type thing where we can show people, what it takes to, publish your own work.
Oh yeah, that's the whole intent, man. Like we'll have the the marketing team that's going to launch my book. We'll have the publisher on. We'll have the editor on. Like these are all be people, and even the program director from Georgetown that I'm working with. These are all people that are, they've already committed to making themselves available to jump on Discord, to talk, to share, to show.
Oh yeah.
They'll use the work we're doing. They'll show all
Mhm.
of, because we record everything. They'll show everybody like, here's how we do Jason's copy edits. Here's how we work together on chapter structure. Here's how we
Beautiful.
identify the cost to publish. Here's how we green light things. So it'll be demystified. You won't have to know, what
Love
it
it.
takes to get it out there. Yeah, man. So yeah, that's the whole point. And then back to your point with Grav, you know, um, shout out to you, man. Manual labor is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. I started my career as a mover and a janitor, cleaning, wealthy people's houses and moving furniture in and out of storage units. And it was in between, going to school and coming back home in Chicago. And I remember, how people treated me as if I was like not worthy of their time. But I used to go into these homes and I would study the things that people were packing up and what they thought was important and what was precious. And that's what made me realize that the products we create are really a reflection of our lived experiences. They're artifacts, not products. These are what people
Mm.
are going to look at years from now. And then I started to understand the hierarchy of the invisible caste system that exists within America, where people who do work in manual labor are regarded as like, oh, you're different. Like, nah, man, you're the builders of this place, literally, and not
Bro,
just
that's
figuratively.
it.
Yeah, man. So, nah, shout out to you, bro, because I was a proud janitor, man. Like, I've been homeless. I've 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 went through so much in my journey, but I'm grateful for it all because I don't take none of this stuff for granted, and nor do I take myself that seriously. I'm
Yeah, I
just a
love that.
dude that just happened to succeed by being creative, because creativity is my jump shot, man. I didn't make it out the hood with running a football. Unfortunately, I was hit by a drunk driver and couldn't play sports anymore, but creativity became my jump shot, bro. So
Bro, that's sick. And I mean, like dead ass like grabs into it, bro. Like he be hitting, like sitting there with his headphones on, talking to us in the morning about Web3 and asking questions while he's sitting there tiling. Like you hear him in the background scraping and shit. Bro's in it. And that's what I'm about, man. That's why I love this space too. There's so many people that realize that, like just like you said, like me, man, I was a bartender and it was the same way, dude. Like everybody treated me like I was some sort of commodity. When at the end of the day, it's like I'm sitting here making hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of annual sales and $5 drinks for old rich people that don't give a shit about me. So tired of it. But either way, we're pretty much done here, but I did want to touch one thing though that you said, and maybe you could speak on this because it's actually something that I'm interested in. And you kind of, you danced around it a little bit here, but we're talking about minting here. And tell me what you think
yeah,
about this. But here's my thought. I think that the way that we're handling minting right now and we're having fun doing it, it's a novelty. We can go on a website and click a particular quantity of things and hit a button and get those delivered to our wallet. I believe that this is the ancestor of what's going to be e-commerce and Web3. And I think that right now, being able to build these technologies for fun is one of the best things that we could possibly do, because it gives us the ability to inherently understand it before it reaches maturity.
yeah, I agree. I agree, and I think that's the part where before this becomes, um, and I hate to be critical of large corporations because I've benefited from them, but before it becomes common and everyone is trying to do it, I think we get a chance to define what the ethos of this is in a way where we can see ourselves, embedded into this opportunity in perpetuity. Because what happens is the people who create it dictate who gets to benefit from it. So if we're able to say, okay, what does minting mean? Like you said, it will be the ancestor of e-commerce going forward. Right now, Gumroad is the corollary for what I'm doing in Web 2. Gumroad is like, you put anything out, teach a class, put anything out. But I'm like, okay, will that exist in perpetuity though? Will that be something that people can go back and authenticate that this has not been edited or tampered with? Because a lot of the books that I read, I question it. I'm like, man, how much of this has been edited or redacted or changed or modified to fit whatever the common agenda is of today? And if we can protect the value of the written word to transfer history, to transfer ideas and thoughts, what we're doing is time stamping societal sentiment in a way that is irrefutably protected in perpetuity. Because I just don't trust where we're headed. And you guys have probably read Ray Bradbury's book about Fahrenheit and how they've got, like, I see a future where that will be, getting information will be very, very hard for a lot of people. And I want to make sure that we can protect that, so you can just get information in a fluid way and put your information into the world, because we're going into the skill economy. And the skill economy is very different than, in my industry, we talk about the culture of attention. We're in an attention economy right now in pop culture. Who can get the most likes and looks and create, we say it's the creator economy. But when you go into the skill economy, which is based on a barter system, it's going to be, well, what do you actually do? And does it have value? And can it create residual value for the audience? That's what I want to do in the literary field. It's like, what is the skill economy for that? With the cover designers, the book binders, the people who record the audio, like all these moving pieces of how I'm getting my book created. Let's celebrate those people so that their individual way of working is now able to be accessible to a larger amount of people. Because it shouldn't be that I'm in this position as an author to have access to all these ridiculous resources, and there's some kid sitting somewhere and she has some story that can change the world but can't afford to put it out. That pisses me off. That it's
Bro,
money
yeah.
that stops people from doing this.
That's it. And that's why I think that's one of the things that I find most interesting about the Web 2.0 is how, we had it built for corporations to use, but we ended up getting people using it to, I mean, honestly, like it started with, I think, personal expression, because I remember the early 2000s where blogs really ran the internet. Obviously, there's a couple websites here and there, but, blogs turned into social media platforms that turned into things where you're forced to interact in certain ways and your dopamine is gamified to where we're treated like Pavlovian dogs. To see where we can take what was, and we could allow these people to again use the power of the internet, but in an even better way. Web 2 was cool, but it was centralized. Web 3, it's like once you put it out there, it's there. You can't take it away. And that's magical. You touched on something just a second ago, and this is the last thing because it made me remember something that you had mentioned earlier that I want to talk about. How do you feel that what we're doing right now, and you've already kind of danced around it a lot, but definitively, like objectively, how do you feel about how blockchain and Web3 technologies and NFTs, as part of that, are going to affect copyright law and intellectual property law?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked that.
And one last thing. And
Yep.
do you think that this is a net win for artists in general? And then that's it.
So,
So that
oh no, go ahead. You got it, bro.
I was just saying that two-parter. That was it.
Okay. Yeah. So it's no secret that I am a huge advocate for artists owning their IP. I was screwed out of my IP. What a lot of people don't know is my junior thesis um, became the basis for it. Now it's known as Nike Plus, and I signed away the rights to that IP for $5,000, and I thought that was the largest amount of money I'd ever seen in my life at once. Now it's $1 billion business unit. Like, no disrespect to the swoosh, but I was a kid who had took an MP3 player, hacked it, attached it with an accelerometer from an airbag to a snowboard boot, and figured out how to create an adaptable playlist that changed with accelerations and decelerations for my roommate. I showed it in my
Wow.
portfolio, talked about it, signed it over, and not realizing I was signing over my rights to something that I could have built from a technological standpoint, and something that I could have benefited my family. I designed a Monarch, the shoe that's regarded as the highest grossing shoe in the history of footwear. I don't have any royalties for that. So I haven't been able to financially benefit from the things I've created, but I've literally have supplied billions of dollars to other people, billions. And I have to worry about how to pay my kids tuition or take care of my parents when they retire. That doesn't seem right to me, that I can create value, but I can't enjoy value. So it's going to fundamentally shatter the intellectual property rights segment, because when 44 was in office, he changed it from first to create, first invent, to first to file. That is a huge issue, because the barrier to entry with protecting your ideas is cost. It's cost to trademark in multiple categories, to get patents, to be able to do the patent search, to be able to make sure that you're able to protect it in different countries based on their law. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars protecting my ideas. The average person with the insight, like the woman who created the fidget spinner, she didn't get any money for that. Nothing. She
Wow.
got screwed out of her IP because she couldn't afford to protect it. It was a teacher who had neurodivergent kids. She made it, and the fidget spinners popped off, and she benefited nothing from it. So I think when we look at this technology with blockchain and authentication and having the audience say, yes, this person did that, and this is certified on a blockchain, this is boom, 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 it gives the creator the chance to defend themselves in court. Because we haven't seen the first court case where someone pulls out the blockchain as a way to verify that they did that. We haven't seen that
Bro,
yet. It's going to
facts.
happen.
I can't. It's gonna happen. I've been screaming that.
It's going to
Facts.
happen. It's
Because it
going to
makes more
happen.
sense, and I think legal's probably going to be the first one where we see that shit happen because it makes more sense there than anywhere else. When you could
Exactly.
show up and say, "Here you go. Here's the record. Here's the fucking barcode. Just scan it," and
Yep.
it could pull up that information. That trumps spending 6 weeks going through filing cabinets and shit like that. Like this is
Oh,
big
100%.
facts. I believe that.
Yeah, and I think the areas where people aren't paying attention to where verification is going to matter is in real estate and property rights because a
Don't
lot
even
of people
start it about medical records, bro. I'll go on medical
medical
records all
records,
day.
all our genetic records. People don't. I've been yelling for years. You need to own your bio data, and now we've seen what happened with 23andMe and the woman saying that they'd be creating drugs on behalf of people without their consent. Like we need to own anything that we generate, from our stats as an athlete to our medical information to real estate property rights to historical, epigenetics, which is how different things are transferred through the DNA of a previous family member. Like we need to own ourselves. We don't. We give ourselves freely to a system that profits from the information we generate. And I'm just really concerned that people aren't being communicated to in a way that's simplified. So the real Trojan horse here is using a book. Everybody understands what a book is. This is another way to say, hey, here's how this technology can be useful. Because what I'm seeing now is that even though Web3, we all are learning, we're all growing, it's only really about 400,000 people globally that hold NFTs. And we have about 8 billion people on the planet. So this is still a very privileged, very elite group of people who are clamoring to get this info. And we got to make sure if we're talking about decentralizing power, that we don't end up becoming the power that we're trying to disrupt. Because you can do that. When you're going against the system, you can become the very thing, the next version of the very thing you're trying to disrupt if you're not careful. So that's
Truth.
why I think we just doing this process, being transparent, sharing what we're working on, keeping people included, hopefully inspires the next, like I like what you said earlier, that this will be the ancestor of what's to come. I just hope that we can inspire the next kid to take it even further and like, yo, I'm gonna launch somebody launching a whole movie process on the blockchain in this way. Somebody launching, I've seen music start to move into this space and it's just through NFTs. But I'm like, man, what about everything else that this could do in terms of,
Mhm.
law and how we go about understanding our sovereignty as natural citizens of this nation versus being stuck under some governance that doesn't really care about a lot of us, if not all of us. So this is so much deeper, man, for me than just the book. It's about owning my identity and defining what identity means to me and why it matters to me and how I can protect that so my future progeny know where they came from and who they are and their worth. Because that is a thing that people are clamoring. We have an abundance of self-confidence in North and specifically the United States, but we have zero self-worth. It's why we get caught up in the culture of clout and consumerism. Because if we truly knew who we are and what we are and what we could do, we wouldn't subject ourselves to any of this nonsense. We would fundamentally fight for our right to create and to love who we want to love and to be who we want to be in a way that's inclusive and respectful. But what we're doing is rebelling against consumer constructs that we're told to be angry at. And I'm like, man, can we just get to the point where we create and we show love? You don't have to agree, but you can at least align that if you're a human being, I have at least enough respect for you to live in your truth. So that's what I'm trying to do with this book, is to live in my truth, inspire other people to do it, and God willing, use my privilege to create your story and own your story and share your story.
Bro, that's amazing. I love it, man. I'm gonna leave the questions there because that was powerful as heck, man. Has anybody got any questions? Y'all want to come up and ask some questions for Jason about what he's got going on? Maybe something reflecting back on what he was saying earlier, or perhaps questions relating to the book that he's currently working on. Let's see. Wow, I'm fielding a whole bunch of hands here. Let me double check. Yeah, no, it looks like we've pretty much covered everything. If I'm reading the room correctly, it looks like we definitely have. It's been an hour since we've jumped on and started chit chatting here. Jason, man, is there anything else that you want to say?
Man, I just
Oh,
want to
we
say
got some.
thank you. Yeah, just thank you for letting me into you guys' space, man. Like, I do have to make sure that whenever I'm in someone else's home, that I show gratitude and appreciation for being accepted and included. I don't take that for granted. I don't expect people to want to work with me because of who I am and what I've done. So anybody that's willing to share space with me, I appreciate you. And I do. I appreciate you taking an hour listening to me. I value your time, and
Yeah, I
I'm really
value your
grateful.
time too, man. I really do appreciate it. I like this energy that you got. We got Simo up real quick that wants to say something, and then we got Joe/Jose that's going to be coming up here in a second too. Simo, what's up?
Yo, what up, man? How are you doing?
What up, man? I'm great. Good seeing you earlier today in my other space.
Today was my lucky day, let's say. After finishing the whole work, I'm able to be here with you, and I'm grateful and thankful. Thank you guys for letting me, having this opportunity to exchange and be there with you guys.
Dude, thank you so much for participating. You're one of the coolest people that I've met in the space.
Okay, Jason, I don't know you, man, but I love the passion, the way you're talking. And I just want to ask you, what is your real motivation to keep doing this for real? Like without Photoshop, without anything else. What is your real motivation to keep pushing forward? I heard a lot, but I want a real honest stuff between man to man. What is it for real?
Man, I'm so glad you asked that question because, there's a person on here, like I mentioned, Miles, who can verify. Everything I say on here is exactly what I say one-on-one. I'm a completely congruent person. I'm doing this because I come from a place where my ancestors didn't have the privilege and the ability to tell a story and be valued as human beings. I come from a place where I've had to sacrifice. I saw my father go to work every day under the threat of his life being taken in Indiana by the Ku Klux Klan just to put food on our table. So I have no hidden agenda. I have no other desire than to be a person who says, if I believe in God and I have faith, then that means I have to have unconditional love and I have to be willing to put myself in uncomfortable positions to show people miracles are real. Because I'm a walking fucking miracle. That's the truth. And I just want to make sure before my time expires, that I do something that empowers as many freaking people as possible. Because when you live your dream before you expect it, the rest of your life, you're like, what is my purpose? So my purpose became to build stronger children rather than fixing broken adults. Because it's too late. By the time you get to my age, if you don't have therapy in the support system, people pouring into you like I have, a lot of people give up. And there's an area of psychology called psychogenic death. And what it is, it says that people can literally think themselves into dying. And that scares me because our thoughts frame our reality. And so many people right now are hurting. They're hurting. And no one is taking the time to say, what can we do to empower? What can we do to inspire? Everything is entertain them. I don't want to entertain anybody. Entertainment is fleeting. It means nothing. But if I can inspire you, that may give you a chance to at least say, you know what, I want to live for another day. I want to live for another day. I have a reason to get up. So many people don't have reasons to get up. So many people feel like if they died, no one would care. I felt like that for a very long time. A very long time. Like if something happened to me, who would show up to my funeral? I thought about that probably up until last year. Like, will anybody ever care about what I'm doing? Then I decided I don't really have to worry about the outcome. I have to worry about my effort. I have to worry about the process of becoming, not what I'm becoming, but the process. So everything I do, whether it's public or behind the scenes, is all with this intention of putting other people on with no actual expectation of reciprocity. I don't do things because I believe that what's meant for me is for me, and no man can take that from me. No person can stop what's divinely meant for me. My providence is mine. But I can be a blessing while I'm waiting on my blessings. And the folks I mentor, the folks I work with behind the scenes, they hear me go on these little TED Talk rants all the time through voice notes and texts about how important this is. And so I just decided maybe it's time this year to start being more upfront and out in the public about what I'm doing and how I'm supporting and how I'm helping people. So people can see like you could be a good person and you can still be successful, because you don't have to be an a-hole to win. I'm tired of hearing like nice guys finish last. That don't mean we finish wrong. I know a bunch of people that finish first, but they fail a test. Because I take my time and I treat people kindly, that doesn't make me any less of an executive or a business leader or a cultural person. So I want to kind of change the paradigm around what it means to be a man, what it means to heal, what it means to share, what it means to create and give. And if I could do that and put a dent into this industry that's very vain and very selfish, then I've done my job. And that's honestly what I want to do. I know other people, may not agree with my methods and think that it's off brand or it's not cool enough, but I'm not living to be called cool. I'm living to be called somebody that actually used this time to make this place a little bit better. Not just my bank account, not just my clout, but like, did I actually inspire someone to live another day? That's my goal.
I
Bro, I
dig it.
love that. What were you gonna say, Simo? And then after you, we got Joe/Jose and Octavius that want to talk to. But what were you gonna say, Simo?
He might have been done.
Okay. Jose, Joe, Jose, what's up?
What's up? What's up? I just wanted to say something that really stand out. First and foremost, Jason, thank you for blessing this group with your experience, your knowledge, things that you don't have to share with other people. So thank you there. Something that really stood out. I feel challenged on a very, very much so daily basis that I want to challenge all of us here is I love the question of the why. What are you doing here? Why are you doing this? And what are you trying to get after? Challenge yourself in that, because the fear is, this is a fear that I have, that I deal with, is becoming the thing that you're going up against, because they can bring you in. They bring you in the mix, and then you get a seat at the table, and then you just become one of them. Check your why. Just check yourself before you wreck yourself at the end of the day, because it's a that's a steep path. That's a steep path for sure. But yeah, thanks.
Well, that's what's up. Sorry, I hit the that mic button right there. I keep forgetting about it existing sometimes. Oh man, appreciate you, Joe/Jose. Octavius, man, what's up? You want to have something to say?
What's up, y'all? Jason, I want to step on and say that one, I've been following you and paying attention to you for a minute. And I specifically want to let you know that as a person that's been watching you from a distance and never actually met you, I really appreciate the way that you as a man of faith move out here. The way that, you've been able to execute and do the many things I've seen you do, but also represent your worldview, your belief system at the same time. It's been, I've been watching like for years. I've been watching for years, and that's something to aspire to, and it's good. I mean, you've been an example for me as someone who's like, okay, a man of faith, but at the same time is excellent at his craft. At the same time, is in the community and around these spaces and doing things that I want to do, and towing that line and walking together and keeping your integrity and your excellence at the same time. I mean, I've been inspired by it. So I just wanted to say that to you as I have the opportunity to, and let you know that, as you're talking about having the impact that you want to have, I, as one person, have been somebody who's kind of, how you say, like, you can pick your own mentors, even though you never met them. So in a sense, in a way, I've been mentored by you in a way from a distance. So I just want to let you know I appreciate you and say thank you for that.
Man, I appreciate you, bro. That means a lot, because I think you probably get this because you said you've been following. I like, this is my sincere desire, bro, to show like a completely different side of this culture. Like, I'm not taking a path towards popularity. I'm taking a path towards purpose, which means I need to deviate from the narrative. I need to deviate from this timeline, man. This timeline is set up by people who don't have our vested interests in mind. They don't really care about the culture. They don't really care about anything other than, like I said, turning us into consumers who don't question, who don't feel. And so I'm standing outside of the culture, observing it, in hopes of being a person who gets people to kind of evolve. The culture really hasn't changed. And when we talk about the culture, it's so many different things, man. It's not monolithic. It's not streetwear and hip hop. It's the culture of youth. It's the culture of intention. And I'm trying to get people to see, like, the coolest thing you can be is kind. That's it. that's it. It's not a sucker move. Like, I work really hard to be nice. It's natural for me to go out here and be south side of Chicago. I work really hard to be a nice person, and I want to scale that mindset, like kindness, self-discipline, inspiring people, caring for people. That's the most meaningful thing you can do with your time here, because we all have an expiration date. This is the in between from where we came from and then where we're headed next. This is a layover. So what you gonna do on your layover? You gonna scroll Instagram? You gonna sit here and just waste your time eating food that's destroying your body? You gonna spread gossip, or you gonna use your layover to do something that's gonna help your journey and the next person's journey be better? I'm using my layover for something bigger than this little clout chase that's going on. I don't want that. I want something way more, something that no man can destroy, which is a legacy built on servitude. That's what this is about. So I appreciate you, man. That means a lot. And I respect you, man. And I'm hyped that, you were able to join and share that. And hopefully, God willing, at some point, we'll be able to share space, man, in the world. And we can support the things you're doing.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Man, that's a bro. You're just. I love your conviction. It's regardless of religion. I love talking to an individual that has a desire to do things right, I'm personally agnostic. I don't. It's not up to me. I feel like to focus on some of the more semantic things. I'm more focused on being a great person, helping people out, being the best person I could be, because I'm just like you. I feel like that's what matters. But at the same time, I think religion and spirituality are some of the strongest forces in human history, in that they bring people together. They get us also to recognize how insignificant we are in a good way, in the sense that, we aren't the center of the universe. We are ourselves, and we have our own limitations. And it's understanding that and seeing you saying that you're becoming a servant to the people around you, to the community that you want to build. I think, if we get more people to do that, especially people that have the clout like you, that don't even care about the clout, but like you can keep moving forward, and it's because you don't care about it. It's almost like, being the prettiest girl at the dance. Like, you don't have to go. You could choose what you want to do, and the more that you decide to do what's best for you, the more the world around you wants to get you to change to do what's best for them. And when you're doing something that's truly good for the people that are connecting with you, then it becomes, an unstoppable movement, in my opinion. So I'm super excited to be a part of this with you. I'm so happy that, we found a natural synergy that we could exploit in a good way here between our communities. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of this. Thank you so much.
Likewise, man. Likewise. Like you said, the thing I've learned about power is that people who really yield it and wield it don't care if they're going to lose it, because they're like, how can someone take something from me that I don't value? People can only harm you in areas that you value. If you don't value these things, these superfluous things, these things that hold no real meaning, then no one can ever harm you. It's just weird. It's like the movie Office Space, if you've ever seen it. My man got promoted when he quit. Like, that's how I feel about clout. Like, I'm not chasing it, and I keep getting more of it. So I'm like, I don't really value it. I'm a nerd by nature, bro. I wasn't cool growing up. I liked anime and manga before people thought
Before
it
it
was
was cool to like that shit. Before
Yeah, so I'm
Toonami
like,
was popping.
that's it, man. So I'm like, this it still trips me out that people even love sneakers, because when I was doing this in the early '90s, man, like, it wasn't. People thought you were weird when you were like collecting sneakers, and they were like, "Wow, why would you care about this?" So now, I didn't grow up being told that what I liked was popular, so I never developed the ego around my taste level. I
Sick.
didn't. So that's really where it comes from, is being other my entire life. Neurodivergent, sick, small, multiracial, inner city, all the challenges. I didn't have all the boxes checked, so I don't care about those boxes. I'm trying to create a whole new space, man, where you can come as you are. And that's what it is. When you talk about religion is the business of faith. I'm a man of faith. I don't believe in the business of faith. I think
Hell
that
yeah,
harms
man.
a lot of people, harms a lot of people. And so when I pray to God, I pray from a position of let me accept people as they are with no judgment, because that is not my place to judge another man who doesn't believe in what I believe in. Now, if you believe in what I believe in, I can hold you to the standard. But if you're out here doing your thing, I'm supposed to love you and meet you where you are. So that's how I treat everybody.
That's sick, man. I absolutely love this. It's a blessing. I got somebody, and this is another conversation, but I got somebody to introduce you to, and Simo can attest to this. But there's a guy named Renown. that you absolutely would love to get in touch with. He's a designer, and he's got a very similar story to you to an extent. He's, he just comes from his own upbringing, from a more urban background, and he got into fashion. He's really into it, and now he's featured in like Nordstrom's and stuff. And he's trying to use this technology to actually do cool things for other fashion designers that are actually like the independent individuals, not the big companies like Coach and Gucci and stuff like that. Like he's trying to help out individual fashion designers on a one-to-one level and show them how this technology can really do amazing things. So I gotta get you in touch with him, and also Futures Factory, which is they're building out a Web3 platform for like sneakers and selling NFT sneakers and stuff like that for the metaverse. And it's really sick. And just I think there's a natural synergy there that you can also kind of go and check out, because it's right along the lines, it sounds like, of your roots and where you started, especially with sneakers and being in the fashion space. Being a Black individual in this time in the tech world, like there's a lot of connectivity there. And that's one of the things that I also like to do is network. I like to connect people together that I think would really go well together. So I'm gonna send you those links in the DM. I'll hit you up with those.
Bet. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you so much, seriously. And again, thank you so much for taking the time with us. An hour and a quarter now has passed since we jumped on. You got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about. I've got about an hour and 15, 20 minutes worth of audio that I'm going to go back through, chop it up, and we're going to try to extract some nuggets out of this for the community as well. So stay tuned with that. And again, if you guys are new, if you guys are just getting here, I see most of you guys have been here. We're the Happy Quokkas. We're building a Web3 lifestyle community on the Solana blockchain, where we're focused on mental health. We're focused on mindfulness, wellness, and personal development. We just want to make people, or allow people to be the best people they can be, give them the opportunities to help out one another and learn about the things that are going to shape the future and the things that matter to us as humans. So that's where we're coming at it from. This isn't another PFP project where it's just a bunch of art. Like, we're actually building a community first. The NFT project exists and it gives you some cool benefits, but we really aren't trying to get people to FOMO into buying an NFT so they can flip it. We're trying to get people to FOMO into wanting to make the most out of their time on this earth and make the biggest impact as possible using this technology and using this community that we're building. So that's where we're at. If you're about that life, please check us out, join the Discord, ask us any questions you got. Jason's going to be working with us over the next couple months. We're going to be working with him and his team, and we got a special channel in the Discord that's just for the people that want to be a part of it, so that way you don't get crowded with it if you don't want to. But we're going to be dropping links in there. We're going to be dropping interviews. I'm sure over the next few months we're going to do a lot of really cool things together, so y'all just stay tuned for that. Follow Jason, follow us, and again, thank you guys so much. I hope that y'all have a blessed day. I hope that we can make 2022 the best year ever for every single one of us. And Jason, bro, seriously, again, thank you for your time.
All love. Y'all be well.
All right, be safe, bro. We'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Peace.